Hi, welcome back to Transform to One's channel. We are a faith-based organization whose vision is to foster transformational change through Christ-centered initiatives. One way in which we do this is by hosting our annual Navigating Trauma workshop series in person here in Jamaica. As we prepare for our upcoming workshop, which is themed Managing Grief, it will take place on November 1st. We've opened up a space on YouTube for persons who've experienced losses to share their journeys with us. We've chosen to do this to bring awareness to the realness of grief as real people experience it, and also to assist our listeners who've also experienced loss, just to help them to realize that they aren't alone and to share just how different our journeys can be. And that's okay, and in fact, it's pretty normal. While doing this, we also realized that it helped our guests to positively process their losses too. For this, we are grateful. Over the next 7 weeks, our guests will answer a few questions to give us some insight into what their journey was like. We want to thank each and every guest for taking the time to share with us and add value to our lives as they give us a piece of them through their sharing. Today's question is threefold. It reads, what losses are you grieving or have you grieved? When and how did they occur? And what was the process of loss like? Here are the responses of our guests.
Hi, my name is Pete McDaniel, and the loss that I am grieving, or the one that weighs on me the most, is that of my father. Yeah, so this was back in 2012, September of 2012, and it was the same day that my wife and I found out that she was pregnant. It was confirmed that she was pregnant. So it was a Thursday. Went to the OB to confirm that we're going to be parents. And I never got a chance to tell him that he was going to be a grandfather. My father, he had done surgery for prostate cancer some years before. He was also diabetic. But the whole process, I think, was a gift, because unlike most persons, death comes suddenly, and we had more than 3 solid months to be with my father, and go to the hospital every day, having conversations with him. So we saw that as a blessing. So he was out of hospital for about a week, and then when he went back, he was there until he passed away. And we grew from just father and son to him being a co-best friend with my brother. So we spoke without words. We laughed at things which only we understood. So I consider it, like a real gift from God that He allowed us to await or to anticipate what would ultimately happen. Yeah, we prayed for his healing and everything, but everything was written on the wall already, and we understood it to be God's will, and our family was together the whole time. So that process of bonding was, and still is, memorable. So, in terms of reconciling the fact that we're going to be parents and the fact that my father was possibly on his way out, that doesn't sound nice, but yeah, it is what it is. We celebrated, just the fact that, God saw us fit to be parents, and also the fact that God gave us time with my father. It was sad that we never got a chance to, and I think that's one of the things that I regret, is that I was advised not to bother him with the news, especially in the condition he was in. But I regret not saying to him, because a part of him may have been conscious enough to actually rejoice, to know. And yeah, so the very morning, so in the morning, we saw the ultrasound of my daughter. In the evening, I saw my father take his last breath.
My name is Chantal Monroe. I'm the CEO and founder of CKM Healing Consultancy, also the author of the book Layers of Healing, Discovering Purpose in Pain and Trauma, and the founder of Layers of Healing Foundation. What loss am I grieving? Well, I wouldn't say I'm grieving anymore. I feel like that season has shifted and somewhat ended. But what loss have experienced in 2017, I lost twins to a rare case, but it does happen, called miscarriage. It's not a mistake, it is called miscarriage or silent abortion. Also losing my relationship at the time, so you can say it was kind of like 3 losses. So losing the twins, losing my relationship, and losing myself. Yeah. So typically with a miscarriage, the body warns the female about what is about to happen. That looks like experiencing excruciating pain and a release of blood that tells you that whatever existed is no longer there. And so you know, and your body expels it on its own, right? With a miscarriage, unfortunately, there's no warning signs, there's no signals, there's no pain, there's no cramping, there's no bleeding, there's no nothing. Your body continues giving off the I am pregnant signals, the adjusting, the nauseousness, the feelings. However, there is deadness in the womb. And the only way to find that out is if you do an ultrasound. So literally, had I not gone to the doctor when I did and them doing their tests, just regular tests, because the reason I went to the doctor is because I was having anxiety attack, I believe. And in that, of course, you know, they're going to test you, are you pregnant? And of course I said yes, and they did their thing. And the doctor said, they're not moving. And my response was, all right, cool. So the next day I went to my gyno to check it out for real, and she did confirm that that is so, because at that time they could only see 1, whereas before we were seeing 2. I was 9 weeks pregnant at the time, right? And so because we didn't know how long they would have passed away, and having that deadness inside your wound can cause other complications, significant complications. So I had to do a surgery like yesterday at the time to remove, because at this point my cervix is closed. And for those of you who probably don't know, cervix is what opens to receive the sperm that connects to the egg on the inside. And when it is fertilized and you're pregnant, it closes up until it's time to release the baby at 9 months. Yeah? And so that was closed because my body is in the process of, you know, doing what it does to nurture children too. Yeah? And so that is what a miscarriage is in the simplest of terms. And that crippled me for years, like years. So I think I finally stepped into purpose in 2020, and this happened in 2017. Yeah? Saying that to say there's no timeline for grieving, there's no timeline for healing. You just have to go through the process and the layers that comes with it.
Hi, I'm Casey Marie, and I lost my job a little over a year ago, and I also lost my grandfather and my aunt in 2017, just months apart. So for my job, it really was something that was sudden. I literally just showed up like I would on any regular day, and then I found out that I didn't have a job anymore, and I guess that kind of shook me. Like I said, I wasn't prepared for it, and as it relates to my grandfather and my aunt, both of them were ill, and even though they were ill, I guess it still came as a shocker, because we really were hoping for the best. And I don't think that we are ever really prepared for death. So yeah, my grandfather, he got a stroke, and then he was at home for quite a while. He was recovering nicely. There were times when he got low, but then bounced back. And so we really just thought that, okay, it's gonna be fine, but then it wasn't. And while my grandfather was there at home, then my aunt, she got ill. She had cancer, and again, she would have done a surgery, and things would have been looking up. She did treatment and all of that, and we thought all was well, and then it came back, and yeah, she went through a whole period where she wasn't able to walk, until she was able to walk again. So of course that gave us hope, but it just didn't end well, and I don't think that I was prepared for that. Yeah, naturally, because you wonder why. We see a lot of healing in the church, and just as a Christian, is something that you are exposed to, that you are aware of, and you know it's possible. And so of course you wonder why did it have to end like this? Why did it have to go this way? But I think based on where I was in my faith or my walk with Christ at the time, I was able to, I guess, accept, and I'm using that word loosely, that it is what it is. There's no sense in questioning it, and I don't know if that sounds harsh, but it really is the reality of it. As it relates to my grandfather, it wasn't, I'm gonna say it wasn't as bad, but then I don't know if it's because there was, the age gap, and I wasn't as close. So even though I was close, I grew up with my grandfather, but the relationship between me and my aunt, it was different. My aunt was like a second mom to me, and I never thought about her dying. It's not something that I ever thought about. And again, my faith was really 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 high, of just witnessing a turnaround, because it would have been something that we saw before. Like I said, she was at a point where she wasn't able to walk, and to see her come back from that, it's like, okay, cool, we can do this again. And even after she died, there was a point where I kept seeing her coming back. Like I thought that, okay, like she's literally going to raise or whatever. I don't know. I don't understand the details of it, but I thought that this is something that's possible, and we can see it. Like she's going to come back and she's going to say, yeah, I know you thought I was dead, but yeah, I'm not. But it didn't happen.
Hello, I'm Joanne, and today I'll be talking about losing my dad. He passed in November of 2020, and so that's the loss that we're going to be discussing. The process was very rapid, very, very rapid, and also very unexpected. We took him to the hospital on Friday, and by Sunday he was gone. So there wasn't a lot of time between everything happening, and it was, as I said, it was very sudden. It came out of the blue. There really were no signs as to him being ill, which was also another part of the shock, that he was fine. We were all talking Friday evening as a family, and he said he felt sick. Took him to the hospital, and he just rapidly deteriorated over the course of Friday night, Saturday, and then by Sunday evening he was gone. So as we all remember, 2020 was COVID. And so that also affected how we dealt with him being hospitalized and subsequently what the funeral looked like. Fortunately for us, the hospital staff was very understanding, and myself and my cousin who lives with me, we were all able to be in the room with him. And strangely, I think he was probably waiting because I was in the room, and then my mom came and my cousin came and we were all there, and then his breathing started to slow. And by the time we called the nurses and they, tried to bring him back, he was pretty much gone. So it almost feels like he was waiting on all of us to be together. Subsequent to that, in relation to, planning the funeral, obviously we were still under restrictions. There was no funeral service, so to say. Everything was at the burial ground. We were restricted in terms of numbers, so we kind of had to pick representatives from different households. That was also very difficult because it was a sudden shock for everyone and everyone wanted to be there. And so while people were able to join by Zoom, it's never the same as if you're actually there in person.
Hello, I'm Lisa Arnold, popularly known as Lisa May. Well, for me, it's not just a loss, it's losses. So I lost my first child in 2015, August 20th. Then my brother, 2017, August 22nd. And my husband, June 13, 2020. So that's 3 losses in a 5-year span. Well, my daughter was murdered. I still don't know by whom, and it has been 11 years, still haven't had closure. My brother was also murdered, robbed and murdered at his house, and my husband suffered with cancer for 5 years before he died.
Hi, my name is Roland, and the losses I'm grieving are several. And not necessarily in order of their occurrence, but more so just what you experience from time to time based on just life being as complex as it is. In February of this year, there was a death of my dad from acute food poisoning. Then February 19, 1995, there was the death of one of my classmates, tragic car accident in which I was involved. And there was also the separation or the dissolution of my marriage from the mother of my first child. That will generally sum up the losses. Just a small correction, it's actually in April of this year that Daddy died. But again, the fact is that he's just no longer here. So those are those 3 basic losses that I would have been experiencing the trauma and the effects thereof over time. They don't occur around a particular time or season. You just remember them. You could be going up to UTech, you remember the night of the accident. Leaving UTech, you remember the night of the accident. You call your father, usually call him on a Wednesday. You don't do that anymore because he's just not there. You remember the marriage itself, the unity, the family, but then it's no longer there for however long it would have been. But then there are just these things that occur that remind you of these issues as they would have occurred, and you are affected by them in different ways. You respond to them in different ways. Yeah, these are some. Another one I want to remember or to put on the record is the loss of my friend. His death was tragic because it was slow and painful to watch him deteriorate over time, and there was nothing anybody could really do. And it was just a multitude of illnesses that led him to that. And as much as anyone tried, it just didn't work out. And he died last year, I believe, somewhere around May or June it was. But the family and the friends are still feeling the effects of that. There are multiple other losses. The loss of time is something that probably people don't talk about, but I remember it on the basis of decisions that I would have made and that would have affected other things in my life, that delayed other things or brought me to somewhere unnecessary, just based on whatever the situation was and how I responded to it. But it was a loss of time that you can't get back. You know, that's something that I also grieve or deal with very regularly.
Okay, so I know it is not the same word. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like,
This is crazy.
like,
Testing, peanut butter jelly.
What's all about the Christian?